to mess with nobody's time. But you know, I have billions of years to cover in just a afternoon.
You're doing very good covering.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Coming from you is an honor, my brother. You know, Brother Small is my elder brother. I've learned so much just from his basic conversations that we've had. We have always been very fortunate to have you, brother, with us, speaking to us and guiding us. And you know, I know that you have taken the time to work with me. Oh yeah. Yes.
Come to your school, all the things he's talking about, I watch him do it.
Yes,
Wow,
yes.
nice.
And you know, my brother James' wife, Carol, worked in a school in the Bronx where I was part of that. And the principal of it, I believe, Dr. Marjorie Dunbar, is godmother to some of your children.
Yeah.
And Carol used to be a teacher in that school. So I knew Carol before I knew James.
Wow.
That's how far back we go. And then Imhotep and all the children, okay? But this is how it is, family. Those that came before us, they are our elders. Even Dr. Ben used to say, no matter, Dr. Clark is older than me, he's my elder. When I first started, went down to Florida, and I was doing a presentation, and there was a brother there that said, do you write books? And I said, no, I don't write books, I write curriculum. And the way I explain it is like, let's say you wrote a book about foods around the world. You wrote a book, you traveled around the world, and you talked about different, let's say chicken and rice dishes around the world. Yeah, there we go, chicken and rice. See, people listening. You see, when children hear something that they're familiar with, you see, they automatically identify. You see, that's why we need to get us into the schools. Because they can identify when your teacher look like your daddy or your mommy, you can identify. When they talk about things that you understand, they can identify. And I'm talking about children of all different colors. I was on a plane one time, and there was a child that was sitting in the seat diagonal to me. And this child was not of African culture. Well, she was, if you go down, but she was someone that was not what you would consider to be of African descent. And she was crying. She wasn't having, no, you ain't putting me in the seat. Okay, she wasn't having it. She was just fighting and fighting. And the stewardess said, she has to sit in the seatbelt. We can't take off until she sits in the seat. She tried, baby stood up, started crying, wouldn't do nothing, was upset. Down the plane came a sister with her child. And for whatever reason, she had to stop right in front of me, right here in the aisle. And when that child saw that child, she immediately stopped crying. She calmed down. Why? Because she saw someone that looked like her. It may not have been the same pigmentation, but that's not what's important to early human beings. See, like I say, we learn to get crazy. But children are born pure. They don't carry those things with them until they get older. And so when they see something, so when I said what I said, immediately they could pick it up because they could identify with it. So that as we begin to develop and understand this work that we're doing, family, we have to begin to look at the fact that if you were to write a book about chicken and rice meals around the world, and then someone else comes and does the menu, does the recipe, they do a recipe book. That's the difference between curriculum and writing books. What I do is I take books and put them in steps as to how to teach it. So when I went and I listened to Dr. Ben and I listened to Dr. Clark and Asa Hilliard and all the other great scholars in '87, when I was with Dr. Van Sertima in '84, I said we need to teach this to our children. And so what I did is I took the books and I broke them down into ideas like, what's the main idea? What's my objective? What is it that I'm trying to teach here? And then from there, you get into points where, okay, from there, from your aim, objective, how do you plan on meeting your aim? So then you get into activities that respond to your procedures as to how you're going to teach it. You're going to use a map, Are you going to have the children look at an overhead projector? How are you going to do it? Okay, then you have key questions. Okay, questioning technique. Questioning technique is very important. Because the word education comes from educare, which comes from educe, which means to draw out, not put in. So when I'm talking to people, I'm not thinking in terms of telling you something you didn't walk in this room already knowing. So what I'm attempting to do is make you aware that you're always aware of it. So the language that I use in the curriculum allows the learner to be able to do it. It's like you turn off, no lights in the room, can't see a thing, and then all of a sudden you find the light switch, you turn the light switch on, and you see the chairs, the table, the bracelets, the rings, the books. The question is, did all those things appear in the room when you turn the light on? No, they were always there. Your light just wasn't on. So as an educator, our job is to make it so that we assist you in finding the light switch in your brain. I can't turn the light switch on for somebody. Only you can do that. But I can, first of all, facilitate the fact to let you know there is a light switch in the room. And if you found it, you could see what's in the room.
Gotta get you the switch.
That's it. But I gotta facilitate you getting there. And the bottom line is that you are born with every bit of information that has ever existed, that exists, and that will ever exist. You're born with that. And the job, the responsibility of the facilitator or the teacher is to make you aware that you already know it. How could I put something in your head that wasn't already there? It doesn't make sense. So, brother told me, he said, you need to write books. And I said, well, I don't write books. He said, well, even if you were to just, because this is being taped, even if you were to just transcribe it, you could make that a book. And I said, well, that's an idea. The light switch came off on my head. He helped me find that light switch. But still, I wasn't convicted. Then I went and I spoke at the Marcus Garvey School in Los Angeles. And my co-presenter was a sister that wrote books and was a presenter. She said to me, do you write books? I said, no, I write curriculum. She said, no, but you should write books. And I said, well, she said, even what you're saying right now, you can transcribe what you, same thing that the brother told me. She told me. So, I said, I think I heard the same thing twice in the same summer. I think the Creator and ancestors are talking to me. And so I decided to write books. And the book I wanted to write was a book I always wanted to write, and it was called Shabakastan. My mother brought home a Xerox copy of a book that was just about to be redone in 1976 called Stolen Legacy by Dr. George G.M. James. And then I went into page 139 to 151, chapter 8, the Memphite Theology. And when I read that chapter, that just blew my mind. That I saw science from a whole different perspective just in that chapter alone.
What was the name of the book?
It was called Stolen Legacy. I'm sure they got a copy here. Okay. Stolen Legacy by Dr. George G.M. James. And when I read that chapter, page 139 to 151, I said, my brother? Oh, Sister Karen with her. Okay. There we go.
She was my teacher for about 10 years.
Oh, okay. All right.
I tell everybody about that book.
Okay.
And I said I have to write Shabakastan because Shabakastan is a rewritten version of a much older document that unfolds the coming into existence of the cosmic universe. But not just that, it also assists each and every one of us. If you understand how the cosmic universe came into being, you'll understand how you came into being and how all your ideas come into being. And there are no challenges that you will ever face in life that you at least do not have an answer to as to how to solve. So I wrote, I said I was going to write Shabakastan, but Shabakastan real heavy because I had to read Stolen Legacy quite a few times. So I wrote Spirituality Before Religions. And Spirituality Before Religions takes you through the texts. The pyramid text, the coffin text, the book of the coming forth, the day by night. It allows us as a people to understand where all the religions came from. That's why it's called spirituality before religion.
That's right.
Because every religion is based on spirituality. And according to where you are coming from, you can contaminate it. You can also bring it to the next level, but you can also contaminate it. And so what we're experiencing is Greek and Roman vomit. Okay, this is what Dr. Wade Nobles was telling us. Vomit. Okay, when the Greeks sat at the feet of the Cushites, that meal was intellectually too deep. They didn't have the intellectual enzymes or the spiritual enzymes to break it down. And what the Romans got was a misconstrued understanding of what the Greeks thought they knew from the Cushites. And so what Western civilization did is that they vomited it up. And that's our political system, our educational system, our labor system. Everything that they touch is vomit. Now, you don't want to touch it. You don't want to look at it. You don't want to smell it. But don't throw it away. Because in that vomit is the original meal. Examine it. Put your gloves on and your sticks and separate it to figure out what that meal was. Because you have the intellectual and spiritual enzymes to understand what that is. And that's why I wrote Spirituality Before Religions, to help us understand that this is a beautiful thing right here. Spirituality is beautiful. It's phenomenal. And you ain't got to pay, you don't have to pay Reverend Chicken Wing a dime. Minister Pork Chop. You don't. Now there are religious institutions that do a good job making sure that their congregation is doing well, making sure they have housing, make sure they have food, make sure that they have counseling and things like that. Okay, that's okay. And I also have a sense of respect for Christianity for what it did for us on the plantation. Because had we not had something that we could hold on to, even though it wasn't anything that we should, it allowed us to live through the day. It just allowed us to be able to see that they were telling a story about this man who came into the world a loving being and gave the world everything. And at the end, I grew up Roman Catholic.
Okay.
I wanted to be a priest.
Okay.
My apologies. I was an altar boy, choir boy. I knew Latin better than the priest did. I could tell the priest when he made a mistake in Mass.
Wow.
I was in it. Okay. Until I had a friend, family was Puerto Riqueño, Boricua. And I used to go to his house on occasion where they'd be having festival.
Yeah.
Okay, they was having some serious santeria up in that house.
Yes.
And sometimes I would, and see, the house during the ceremony didn't look nothing like it when I was there after school.
Right, right.
They decorated that house. And I saw Obatala, Chango,
Ochun.
Ochun, you can go through, Jemaja, you can go through the list of the, I didn't see that at St. Paul the Apostle Church.
Right.
I was looking at them black folk up in there, I said, wait a minute. And then the music would play and I'd be dancing. Oh man, they'd be watching this. I was into it, man. That drum was driving me. But put that in the back of my mind as a child, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's push forward to about, I was 14 years old. I had met Professor Clark when I was 12 and a half at a presentation that some of the brothers brought us up, and sisters brought us up to Harlem. And we sat in front of this gentleman. And when I was 14, I was in the basement of the church, because I'm a high school seminary, doing some work, and I come upon a book. And it talks about how the Paulist priests who were in Poland decided that they were going to protect this religious statue from the Nazis. And the statue said Our Lady of Czestochowa, but in parentheses it said Black Madonna and Child. Now let's go back to my time with my friends, with the Orishas. And now look at this. I call up Dr. Clark. I just leave the church. I go, for young people, you may not notice, but we did have payphones at one time in the street. And I went to the payphone and I called Dr. Clark. And I told him that I had come upon some information about a Black Madonna and Child, and could you help me understand that? And if you know Dr. Clark, you know that there'd be a silence. And when he was, the silence was he was smirking.
Oh.
Because he said,
you
got him.
Got him, yeah.
He said, well, come on up, book a tea, and we'll talk about it. And so the first chance I got went up. And he gave me a mimeograph copy. Now, this ain't no Xerox copy. This is mimeograph. Remember purple ink?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how far back we go with this.
Yep.
I tell young people, man, I grew up in a generation when we say cut and paste, I'm talking scissors and glue. Yeah. Didn't even have glue stick at the time.
That's true.
Wow. He gave me a copy of a thing he was working on. It was called The Boy Who Painted Christ Black. And it's become a short story on TV. Blair Underwood played it.
Okay.
And I got on the number 7 bus in Manhattan, and I was going home to the Amsterdam projects. And I read it by the time I got off the bus. And then I read it again. About 2 weeks of reading it, I called Dr. Clark and I say, I've read it. I think I'm ready to talk to you about it. I went up to his place and he started dropping some stuff. Now, let me tell you something about Dr. Clark. Dr. Clark was a diplomat because he knew I was 14. He knew I was a teenager. And he knew that I was Catholic. And so he had mercy on me, describing what a fool I have been. But he did it. I often said that Dr. Clark used to come at you with a velvet glove, but it was an iron fist. Because when he hit you,
Bam.
I went home. My father was a tailor. I took my surplice and my cassock, which is, your vestments. My mother said, if you're going to do this, Skip, you got to do it right. So we went out, got a little suitcase, and I went back to the church. They hadn't seen me in 2 weeks. And my supervising priest said, Booker, I think the church is losing you. And I said, Father, the church lost me. I put the suitcase on the table, left, never came back. Because I understood what spirituality was.
Right.
And I understand I had it all the time, but I was just practicing it wrong.
Right. That's a nice way to say it.
And that's how we are as a people.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I still respect and honor what Christianity did for our ancestors on the plantation, that had they not had something to hold on to, that hope, that they would have killed themselves. Or they would have done something that got them killed. And some of us in this room wouldn't be here if that had happened.
Right.
But, and that's a contrasting conjunction, I was once told that there was a proverb that said, going back to what Dr. Amos Wilson said, a good organization solves its people's problems and meets its people's needs.
That's right.
When you are in an organization that no longer meets your needs and solves your problem,
Talk about it.
it's like carrying the boat on your back after you cross the river.
Come on.
The boat got you across the river. That's a good thing.
Yeah, but you gotta carry.
But if you carry it on your back, it becomes a burden. And so spirituality before religion, don't say anything bad about any religion. I wouldn't know what religion to be if you decided to leave whatever you were. So if you're a Christian, I want you to Africanize your Christianity.
All right.
If you're a Muslim, I want you to Africanize your Islam. If you're a Hebrew Israelite, I want you to Africanize your Hebrew Israelite. If you're a Rosicrucian, Africanize it, Africanize it, Africanize it. Because it is in that spirituality that is the basic energy and fundamental principle of what drives whatever it is that you believe. And so spirituality before religion was meant to get you ready for what I was going to drop in Shabaka Stone, because the Old Testament is the New Testament and the New Testament is the Old Testament. Because they'll tell you that the Old Testament came from the book of Genesis and the 5 books of Moses, but no, it didn't. You can go to parts of KAMENE. You can go to parts of Nigeria. You can go to parts of Ethiopia. And you can see the basic principle of spirituality. The Amen priesthood existed before the Aten priesthood. The Aten priesthood is where Judaism comes from. The Amen priesthood is where Christianity comes from. And Islam is a combination of them both, out of the mountains of Ethiopia. This is who we are as a people. This is what we've achieved. This is what we've done. They've stolen our legacy. Okay? Okay, they stole basketball and gave somebody else Athlete of the Year. They stole rock and gave it to Elvis. They stole rap and gave it to Eminem. And their best is all mediocre. That's what I can't get over. Family, we are great. Shabaka Stone deals with the origins of the cosmos and the creative force of the universe that comes down and creates the superclusters and the clusters and the galaxies and the stars and the planets. But carbon before melanin makes the word flesh. We celebrated Dr. Sebi's 91st birthday last week at the Brooklyn Temple. 91 years old. And I first went to Dr. Sebi in 1988 when he was down at 616 Pacific Street, right down there by Barclay. In fact, they got so scared of Sebi, they said, let's build the Barclay Center, get him out. And so I went to Dr. Sebi and I did a presentation in Brooklyn on melanin, and I invited him to come. And he came. And then I went back to the Institute and I saw Dr. Sebi. I said, Dr. Sebi, what do you think about my presentation? And he said, Booker T, you're always talking about melanin. But it was carbon before melanin.
Wow.
He made me study carbon. When I say he made me, I'm not saying he made me, I'm saying just that information alone drove me as a student to study carbon and the principles of carbon. There's a chapter in here on carbon dedicated to Dr. Sebi. Because carbon is the atom, melanin is the molecule. The melanosome is the granule which does the work. It's an organelle. It does the work of producing melanin in the melanocyte, which is the cell. Okay? And when you understand that aspect of it, then you understand other things about what's going on.
Carbon is black too.
It is black. It is the cosmos. Look up there in the cosmos. Look, Dr. Richard King taught us that when the carbon of the cosmos pushes in on itself, what happens is that when there's no more space, it implodes and it becomes nanodiamonds. And nanodiamonds become stars. Stars are crystallized blackness. Just like diamonds in the earth is crystallized blackness. Just like black folk is crystallized blackness. That's why Grandma used to always say, you a diamond in the rough. You're in the process of becoming a diamond. You ain't there yet. But you're on your way. And I'm going to make sure you get there. Okay. There we go. That's it. That's it. Okay? That's what this is about. And the subtitle of Carbon Before Melanin is Creators on Earth. Because it's a double meaning. Creator is on Earth. This is coming out of Shabaka Stone now. Creator is on earth. It's a contraction. Creator's on earth. But it's also possessive. Because each and every one of you is the creator having a human experience.
Yes, yes,
You don't have to look out there for the creator.
right.
You don't even have to look inside for the creator. You are the walking creator born with a divine purpose to fulfill on this planet. I include in this the curriculum where I taught children about melanin. And Dr. Richard King was one of my supervisors on this particular project I was doing in District 9. And I would report back to him what was happening in the classroom. Okay? We don't know who we are. We don't understand certain things.
Yes, yes.
And if I were them, I wouldn't let you understand it either. Because the Indo-European ethnic stock, you see, white is not a race.
Right.
Okay? It's an ethnic stock.
Yeah,
It's not a race. There is only one race, and it's the human race.
yeah.
And I'd be careful even to call it the black race.
Okay.
The human race happens to be from Africa and black as it relates to our conceptual socialization of the word black. But we have the original mindset. And Indo-Europeans have not been around that long. And all this foolishness you see happening out here, they know their time is up. Remember, I began with Sabrina Tavanisi? Her article said that 26 states in the United States, there are more of them dying than being born. Black folk ain't got no problem. Because one of the areas is melanin in your reproductive system. Melanin in the spermatozoon, which is singular, spermatozoa is plural. It creates an electricity in the tail, the microtubulus. Okay? And so when a man ejaculates into a woman, the moment that sister stands up, that spermatozoon is working against gravity. So it needs something that's going to at least get that spermatozoon to the egg. So the melanin in the spermatozoon gives that tail, that ability to swim to the egg. In the black woman, melanin in the egg creates a magnetism that draws the sperm to it. So that when the black man and the black women come together as God, because it's the one time that 1 and 1 is 1.
All right.
That is the one time that we are gods on earth. We are locked together. And we ain't making love. Love is making us. You know what I'm saying, right? That's why you call his name. That's why you call her name. When you're about to touch the hem of his garment. It's a sacred act. The deepest of all the acts on earth. It is the most sacred. You are God on earth, creating yourself as the Creator created you.
Yes.
Do you know that if I took you back 500 years, and I know I say this, so please forgive me if you've heard me say this before, but for those that never heard it, when you wonder how many ancestors you have, I have a mathematical equation. It's called e to the 3, e to the 3rd power. Exponential expansion equation. Okay, it's math. You have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, right? If I took you back 20 generations, if I took you back 500 years, considering that a generation is 25 years, if I took you back 25 years to the year 1524, the question I would ask is, how many ancestors came into existence to bring you into existence? How many do you have in you? How many human concepts that lived on this earth over 500 years, going back 20 generations to your direct and indirect ancestors? I'll give you the number when you do the math. 1,048,576 human beings.
Wow.
That's how many folk you got up in you.
Come on.
But I'm going to drop the other shoe. Because I only took you back 500. How many ancestors do you have if I took you back 5 million? But now I got to quote my brother James Small, who said that when you go all the way back
Come on.
to your ancestors,
Come on.
you only have one.
Divine.
Please.
That's the divine.
That's the divine.
Yeah.
Think about what I'm saying, Karen. Because I don't want you walking out here the same person that walked in.
Right, right,
right.
I want you to understand you never walk alone.
Yeah.
And your ancestors are always trying to talk to you.
Yeah.
You are a medium. Your ancestors are in the spiritual realm. They've gone on, but they still dwell within you.
Yeah.
You are their eyes, their ears, their nose, their throat, their thoughts, and their skin. They don't have it anymore. But they are your spiritual mind, spiritual eyes, spiritual nose, spiritual ears. They can help you hear things that other people don't hear. Whenever you're in a mixed room, don't ever ask people, did you hear that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They don't hear what you hear because you got melanin in the inner core of your ear. Don't ask them if they saw it. You got melanin in your retina and in your iris and in your pupil. You see things other people don't see.
That's right.
You think things other people don't think.
Yeah.
I'm not talking superior or inferior.
Right.
I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. I am talking about science. I am talking about science. I am talking about something. I'm not going to spend too much time trying to find it. But I have it in the book. It's called Punnett Square. You have a big B and a little b. Okay? You have a square. And then in the middle, there's like a cross. And you have 4 sections. You have the big B and the little b, the big B and the little b. I'm talking about, it's not about superiority and inferiority. It's not about good or bad. It's not better or worse. I would never do that to our people to make them think that you've got something that other people don't have when you do have it, but you have it in a way that they don't have it, but it's not the same concept. What I'm saying is that you don't talk about superiority or inferiority in science, and this is why I shut the room down. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You're talking about, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about when I'm in them rooms.
Yeah.
You're talking about dominant and recessive genes.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Make it plain.
When you got a big B and a big B, you dominant.
That's right.
When you got a big B and a little b, you half and half.
Yes.
When you're a little b and a big B, you're half and half. But when you're a little b and a little b, you are recessive.
All right.
And the first thing that Indo-Europeans should have done when they came up out of those ice mountains is find the biggest, blackest person they could to make to get back on the protocols. But what they did in their xenophobia, in their insanity, is that they went in on each other. And they would inbreed. They would only mate with each other. Even Snowflake the gorilla in Spain knew, I don't want that albino woman gorilla. I want that black gorilla. And he made it only with black gorillas. And had a whole bunch of children, and I think like 38 grandchildren. He was an albino gorilla. And he died of skin cancer. There are albino peacocks. They don't mate with albino peacocks. They only mate with colored peacocks. Because nature, through instinct, demands that you must produce yourself. So you can't go with albino. Even albino plants. Albino cockroaches. This is science. But see, when you teach science, because I taught it. I taught Punnett's Cube in 6th grade science. They don't teach it to you. They teach it through plants. Through animals. I used to teach it through humans. They report me to the principal.
Yes.
You know, brother, I spent more time in the principal's office than Kwame. I used to be sitting there and Kwame would be over there. He said, "You here again?" But see, this is the reality. So when you're dealing with them, understand something. Their time is limited. They're on their way out. And that's why you have regentrification. Because you notice the people that are coming into the black neighborhoods, they're young.
Yeah, they are.
And they're young because their cities are dying out. Look, go to the article. Okay?
What's her name again?
June 20th, 2018, Sabrina, Sabrina, Tavernise, Tavernise. Don't believe what I'm saying. Research this and figure this out yourself. Google it. You can Google it. It's there. Okay, I heard it on the Stephen Colbert show. That same day it came out, Stephen Colbert was talking to Charlemagne the God. And he said, "Did you see the article today that was written by Sabrina Tavernise?" And I came out from the kitchen and I said, "What's up here?" And the article, and it'll show you a map where all the states where white people are dying out.
Wow.
But don't go just there. Now I want to take you to another book that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told us to read. Okay? And it was written by Pat Buchanan, and it's titled The Death of the West. But now I want to take you to Europe, because I want you to see something that's even deeper than that, because there's another book that's called The Birth Dearth, Dearth, Birth Dearth, that's written by Ben J. Wattenberg. And that'll tell you what's going on in Europe. See, this immigration thing they have a problem with here, this immigration problem they're having here is something that is tearing them apart.
Yes, it is.
Because they don't want immigrants to come to the country, but they can't help but need them because of the work that they do. But there's a sense of this crazy racism, if you want to call it, fragility that you want to call it, that they're being outnumbered. And they know. They're outnumbered. And they've been outnumbered. The only difference is we figured it out. And so it becomes important. We didn't know our numbers. We don't realize. And now they got this thing called the majority minority, or the minority majority. They even want to make you a minority when you figured out you're the majority. Okay? This is where we are right now. And so what I'd like to do is just round this out by honoring this brother here. If you are into African studies, if you are into studying the history and the culture of African people, if you don't know Professor William Leo Hansberry, you don't know the first brother. I call it an intellectual libation for the architect of America's African Studies program department. He was the one that did this. He was the one that developed it in Howard University in 1923.
Wow.
And this brother went through some stuff. And I was able to interview certain people. Professor Clark was one person that I interviewed. Chancellor Williams I worked with in development, because he was a student of William Leo Hansberry. There was a number of people that I worked with through time that got a sense of what this brother actually went through. And every morning that I wake up that I think I'm having a hard time, I wake up and apologize. I got it made compared to what this brother went through in order to do what he did. This brother and his students used to make maps that never existed before.
Wow.
He was an expert on Ethiopia. He received the first Haile Selassie Award when they were given out back in the 50s. And you know, we always do libation before we go into activities, because it's like you're acting alone when you don't call upon the spirit of the ancestors. So when I started my quest in writing my books, my first book that I wrote was honoring Professor William Leo Hansberry. Because this brother made it possible for a lot of us, for what we're doing in African studies. I know that he helped me a great deal in being able to understand certain concepts, of understanding the methodology of teaching. Okay? If you go to my website, you'll see that I have webinars and webinars. Webinars are quick webinars that deal with methodology. teaching parts of the brain that our ancestors understood. Like, for instance, right now in this room, I'm using my Broca system, which is in my frontal lobe, and you're using your Wernicke system in your temporal lobe. Speech production comes from the Broca, frontal part of the brain. Speech comprehension comes from your temporal lobe in your Wernicke system. And so that when I'm speaking to you, I'm using Broca, you're using Wernicke. Now, I'm about to just sit down and give you the floor so we can have a conversation. I call it a meeting at the African Square. When that happens and you start talking, you're using your Broca system and I'm using my Wernicke system. And so what becomes important about this is that when you're teaching the children, when you're teaching young people, you have to understand that when you say, listen, everybody can't talk at the same time because everybody's using their Broca system and nobody can use their Wernicke system. So that when you calm it down, like I used to have an ankh, and the ankh was the microphone. If the ankh was in your hand, you had a right to speak. If you didn't have an ankh in your hand, you had no right to speak. And so that's how you organize. Also, I used to teach them what the ankh was. But we have to begin to educate our children. And our children are our future. And if what we're doing is not educating our children, we're not preparing ourselves for the future. And if we're not preparing ourselves for the future, we're not going to have one. Not all of us, because I know we're doing it as we speak. And it's going to be all right, eventually. And when we do get ourselves together, I strongly encourage us to avenge our ancestors. Don't revenge them. Avenge. When you revenge, you focus on the person that did you harm.
Right.
When you avenge, you focus on the person that brought you into existence with a purpose in life. They're unimportant. Keep your eye on them. Okay, I ain't saying keep your eye on them. Okay, let's be real. But what I'm saying is that don't waste your time.
Yes. Yes.
Because time is the most precious thing you have. As you mature in life, the one thing you come to realize is the most precious thing you have is time. You can have all the money in the world and lose it. And you can make more. You can have all sorts of houses and they burn down, you can build another one. But you'll never have another December 15th, 2024.
For real.
So how you spent today, that's why you say pay attention. So I want to thank you.
Thank you.
And
For
we
coming
want to
out.
thank you both. We want to thank you.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yes. Now we're going to open it up for y'all because family, we've been lectured out.
Now I know y'all can do better than that. We have a sister from the motherland that wants to make. When you have a dream, when you have a vision, when something comes into your heart and spirit, follow that energy. Follow that healing energy. Follow that 1111. Follow the master of your universe, as Rising Sun would say. And Chris is in here. It's a. You might see me up here on the microphone, but I have vacative. I have the ancestors. I have the living ancestors with me. And I really respect each and every one for coming out for this evening. You could have been somewhere else. You could have been somewhere else, right? Y'all could have been somewhere else, right? Right. All right. But guess what? Yeah. Spirit led you here. And so we're just taking a few archival pictures and remnants, and I'm gonna keep quiet so I don't have to have the mic like that. Get up here. Yeah.
Let's just make some noise real quick, y'all.
Hurry up, man. hold on. We got one more.
Squeeze masters in the pit.
He also assisted us in the promotion, as well as Unc Rising Sun, as well as myself, as well as WBAI, you know, and the internet, and TikTok, and IG, and Facebook. Please spread the word about this institution. It's 50 years of doing this kind of thing that we do. You understand? Yes, I. So, we give thanks and praise to the Almighty that is within us first and foremost, and that spirit that dwells within I and I. And you know, the art of forgiveness is very, very important, and I just give thanks for all of those things. Ashe? 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 All right, we're gonna let the what?